Today we will discuss about the last class we have discussed about the Newton's rings experiment, its construction and working. This is the lecture about to calculate the diameter of the Newton's rings. That is, in the Newton's rings we get alternate bright and dark circular fringes. So in this lecture we will calculate the diameter for bright and dark fringes. So in Newton's ring experiment, this is plano-convex lens. It is placed over plain glass plate. So we just form one circle. This is the center of the plano-convex lens. This is small r. This is small t. Let us assume that Mn is the center of the plano-convex lens. This point is P and this is A. From A, draw perpendicular on Mn, let it be C. This distance is r minus t, this distance is r. So this is plano-convex lens, plain glass plate. This is the center, Mn is the center of plano-convex lens. R, let me write here. R is the radius of Newton's rings. Capital R is the radius of curvature. Capital R is the radius of curvature of plano-convex lens. T is the thickness of air film. So we have to calculate the diameter of bright and dark ring from triangle CAP. From Pythagoras theorem, CA square is equal to CP square plus AP square. This CA square is R square, CP square is R minus T whole square, plus AP square is small r. Solving this a minus b whole square, we get r square plus t square minus 2rt plus r square equal to r square. R square will get cancelled, and here neglecting t square because it is very small, so we will get here t square minus rt, or we can write it 2t is equal to t neglecting t square and plus r square. This is, we are neglecting this term, so we get 2t is equal to r square upon r. Say it is equation number 1. Now we know that the condition for bright fringe is 2t is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. Substituting the value of 2t, that is r square upon r, we get 2n r square upon r is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda by 2. Therefore r square is equal to 2n minus 1 lambda r upon 2. Therefore this comes as the radius. We have to calculate the diameter. So we know that diameter is twice of radius. Squaring both the sides, d square is equal to, if we will square both the sides, then here in place of 2 we get 4r square. Substituting the value of r square, that is substituting this value here, we get 4 into 2n minus 1 lambda r upon 2. Therefore we will get d square is equal to 2 into 2n minus 1 lambda r. Therefore, d is equal to under root 2 lambda r under root 2n minus 1. Or I shall write here again that the value of d is equal to under root 2 lambda r under root 2n minus 1. So we can say that diameter, this is for bright fringe, is directly proportional to under root 2n minus 1. This is the expression for the diameter of the bright fringe. So we get the diameter of your rings in the ratio 1:3:5:7 ... It means 9, 11, 13. So this is the condition for diameter for bright fringe. That is, diameter for bright fringe is proportional. Diameter for bright fringe is proportional to the square root of odd natural numbers. So finally we have calculated the diameter of bright fringe, and it is proportional to the square root of odd natural numbers, that is 2n minus 1. If we will substitute the value of n here 1, then we get 1. If we will substitute the value of n here 2, then we get root 3. If we will substitute the value of n here 3, then we will get root 5, and so on. Now let us calculate the diameter for dark fringe. It is same as the bright fringe, but the difference is in condition. We know that the condition for dark fringe is 2t is equal to n lambda. Substituting the value of 2t from equation number 1, we get r square upon r is equal to n lambda. We get radius r square is equal to r n lambda, and we know that diameter is twice of radius. Squaring d square is equal to 4r square. Substituting the value of r square here, we get d square is equal to 4 r n lambda. Therefore, d is equal to under root 4 r lambda under root n. It means that the diameter of bright ring is, or what should I write here, d, diameter for dark fringe or ring is directly proportional to root n. Root n means natural numbers. So the order of the rings in this experiment is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So here the conditions are different, the diameter for bright and rings are different. Therefore, in Newton's ring experiment, the center rings is broad, and as we move to the higher orders, the separation between the rings decreases. It means when we move to the higher order, then the rings will get closer due to the difference in the diameter of the bright and dark fringes. So let us conclude that the diameter of bright fringe is proportional to under root 2n minus 1, and diameter of dark ring is proportional to root n, that is natural numbers. Now next is the application of Newton's rings experiment. With the help of Newton's rings experiment, we can determine lambda can be determined. That is, we can determine the wavelength of monochromatic light source, what we are using here, and with the formula lambda is equal to dn plus p square minus dn square upon 4pr. We have to derive this formula. To derive this formula, we know that the diameter for dark ring dn square is 4rn lambda, and the diameter of n plus pth ring is 4rn plus p lambda. This is equation number 1. Equation number 2. Subtracting equation first from second, we will get here dn plus p square minus dn square is equal to, in both these terms, 4r lambda is common. Therefore, we get n plus p minus n. Therefore, we get here n plus p square, dn plus p square minus dn square is equal to 4r p lambda, and n will cancel out. So, from here, we get this relation, which is lambda is equal to dn plus p square minus dn square upon 4pr. Here r is the radius of curvature of plano-convex lens. R is the radius of curvature of plano-convex lens. P is an integer. dn square is the diameter of nth dark ring. dn plus p square is the diameter of n plus pth dark ring. And we can also calculate r, that is radius of plano-convex lens, with the formula L square upon 6h plus h by 2 with the help of spherometer. We place the lens on the top of the spherometer, so the height from that is the h. So this is the formula. Basically, we use it in laboratory when we calculate, when we do the experiment, Newton's ring experiment in the lab. Then we use this formula in lab. We are calculating the radius of curvature of plano-convex lens. Lambda is known, so either we can calculate radius of curvature or we can calculate lambda. We will use this formula. We can also determine the refractive index of the liquid, and the refractive index we have to find out. That liquid is placed in between plano-convex lens and plain glass plate, and then we will calculate the refractive index of the liquid using this Newton's rings relation. Now let us discuss about the Hall effect, and it is something is when this is a current carrying conductor. When this current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, then we know that in conductors the charge carriers are electrons. So electrons, they will experience Lorentz force and will accumulate at the lower end, and positive ions at the upper end of the conductor, due to which an electric field is developed, which is in negative direction. This electric field is known as transverse electric field, and it is also called as Hall electric field. So this is Hall effect. It means when a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, this magnetic field is applied in z direction, then we know that in conductor, in majority are electrons. So electrons under the action of magnetic field, they experience Lorentz force and they will accumulate at the lower surface of the conductor and positive ions on the upper surface of the conductor, and due to this positive and negative ions on the surface of the conductor, an electric field is developed which is called Hall electric field, or which is called transverse electric field. So let us explain it with the help of another diagram also. Let this be a conductor, current carrying conductor. We are applying here, this is electric field, this is magnetic field in z direction. Then electrons, they experience Lorentz force, and positive ions, they accumulate at the upper surface. So we have to calculate here the value of EH and VH. It means if potential difference is applied here across this conductor, then it is called Hall potential or Hall voltage. So let me revise it again. When this conductor, current carrying conductor, is placed in a magnetic field, then an electric field is developed which is called transverse electric field or Hall electric field, and when the potential difference is applied across the ends of the conductor, then it is called Hall potential or Hall voltage. So we have to derive this relation. For that, we know that now electron experiences two types of force. One force it is experiencing due to electric field, and the another force due to magnetic field. So force on electron due to electric field, this is equal to E into EH, equation number 1. Another is force on electron due to Lorentz force, F is equal to EV This is the Lorentz force. From equating both the equation, we get so this is the magnetic field we are applying here. It is force on electron due to electric field E into EH, and force on electron due to magnetic field, that is E cube B. Equating both the sides, we will get EH is equal to, therefore EH is equal to Q into HZ. we will get this relation. And if D is the thickness of the rod, then potential we will get V is equal to EH into D. Now current density is given by J is equal to minus NeVd. Here Vd is drift velocity, so we are taking it J is equal to minus NeVx. From here Vx, the value of Vx is equal to minus, let it be Jx upon Ne. So here one more relation comes, that is E let me write here one more relation. It is magnetic field is EQ Vx into Hz. So here we get let me revise it again, repeat it again. F is equal to force on electron due to electric field, E into EH, and this is Lorentz force. So we are writing it F is equal to E Vx into Hz, E Vx into Hz. This is equation number 2. From first and second, we will get EEH is equal to E Vx into Hz. E will cancel out. Therefore, we will get the relation EH is equal to Vx into Hz. This is the relation for Hall electric field, and potential is equal to EH into D. If where D is the thickness of the rod, it means for the derivation of Hall effect, for the derivation of calculation of Hall electric field, we are considering that, we are taking here, it is the rod of the metallic rod of the conductor, and if you are applying it on it the magnetic field, then electrons, they will experience Lorentz force, and due to that force electrons will accumulate at the lower end and positive ions at the upper end, and due to positive and negative charges on the surface of the conductor, an electric field is developed in the negative direction, which is called Hall electric field, and the potential difference developed across its ends is called Hall potential. So for the derivation of Hall electric field on electron, there are two types of force acting. First, the force acting due to electric field, it is E into EH. Second, force electing due to Lorentz force, it is F is equal to E Vx into Hz. Here it is the drift velocity, this is magnetic field, X and Z, these are all directions on which they are applying, and therefore comparing 1 and 2, both the forces, we will get the relation for Hall electric field. Now potential can be calculated EH into D. Here EH is Hall electric field or transverse electric field, and D is the thickness of the rod. We know that current density Jx is given by minus NeVd. Therefore, here we get the value of velocity, drift velocity, minus Jx upon Ne. Substituting the value of Vx, substituting the value of this Vx here, that is an EH is equal to Hz, we will get EH is equal to minus Jx upon Ne into Hz. It can be written as minus 1 upon Ne Jx into Hz. Therefore, EH is equal to, can be written as R Hall Jx into Hz, where this R Hall is called Hall coefficient. This R Hall is called Hall coefficient, and its value is minus 1 upon Ne. So we get here the another relation for Hall electric field. Now we know that the potential is given by Vh is equal to EH into D. Substituting this value here, substituting the value of this value, EH value, here we will get Vh is equal to R Hall Jx into Hz into D, or it can be written as Hall coefficient. R Hall is Hall coefficient and its value is minus 1 upon Ne. Vh is equal to minus 1 upon Ne Jx into Hz into D. This is the relation for Hall voltage. Now we can derive furthermore relation, and current density is also given by current per unit area. That is, current density can also be written as I upon B into D, where B is the width of the rod and D is the thickness of the rod, and we have already derived the relation EH is equal to R Hall the relation we have derived is so we can write it as minus 1 upon NE, it is Jx. This relation we have already derived. So substituting the value of Jx here, we get minus 1 upon NE, I upon BD into Hz. It can also be written as R Hall I upon BD into Hz. This is the relation, another relation for Hall electric field. Similarly, we can derive, we can substitute this value of EH. Here, it means in this relation, now substituting the value of EH here in this relation, so the value of Hall voltage VH is equal to, we can write here as minus 1 upon NE I upon BD into Hz into D. What we have done? We have calculated this another relation for the Hall electric field and substituting this value in Hall potential. So we get my VH is equal to minus 1 upon NE I upon BD into Hz into D. D is already present here. So D will cancel out. We get another relation. VH is equal to minus 1 upon NE I upon B into Hz. This is the another relation for Hall voltage. It can be written as VH is equal to R Hall I upon B into Hz, because minus 1 upon NE is Hall coefficient. So we can write minus 1 upon NE like this. It means this relation can be written as this. So these are the few relations for Hall voltage and Hall electric field that we have derived in terms of Hall coefficient. So let us discuss some importance of Hall effect. So with the help of Hall effect, we can determine the type of semiconductor. It means if the sign of Hall coefficient is negative, it means the charge carriers are electrons, and if charge carriers are electrons, then that type of semiconductor is called N-type semiconductor. And if the sign of this Hall coefficient is positive, it means the charge carriers are holes, and that type of semiconductor is P-type semiconductor. So we can determine the type of semiconductor. We can find the mobility of charge carriers, that is drift velocity per electric field can be determined. We can find the whether that conductivity differs between the conductors and the semiconductors. And so these are the few importance of Hall effect which can be practically possible. So let us revise the Hall effect. What exactly is? It means if a current carrying conductor, that I had made this diagram before. For example, this is a conductor, current I flows across this conductor, and if we place it and apply a magnetic field or place this conductor in a magnetic field, as Z is a magnetic field, then we know that in conductors there are majority of electrons are there. So these electrons, they will experience the Lorentz force due to magnetic field, and these electrons will accumulate at the lower surface of the conductor and positive ions on the upper surface of the conductor, and due to positive and negative charges on the surface of the conductor, an electric field is developed which is called transverse electric field or Hall electric field EH, and the potential difference developed across its ends is called Hall potential.